Wow, the weather doesn't get much better than this. It's about time spring has finally arrived. I mean, wow. 48 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, very light, minimal winds. What a rarity. This has been like really something. Well, thank you for tuning in once again to the 100-day video challenge. And as we have passed the halfway point, I was watching back some past videos that started the channel, 9 years ago. And it's like kind of crazy to see, like how I've changed, how the videos have changed, how much stuff we've done over the years. 7 years ago this month, I wrote 2 stories. I mean, not even essays, kind of relating to what I was feeling about the videos I was doing and the places and what the whole motivation was behind it. So I thought I'd print these 2 stories out and share them with you. And I haven't even read these since then. So I just remembered that I had them, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to revisit some of my thoughts and feelings surrounding the whole thing from 7 years ago, March of 2012. So here we go. And it's kind of crazy watching the old videos. I always am uncomfortable watching old videos of mine. It's weird. I'm like, I don't like the way I did this or the way I said this and my attitude. And we all do that. We go back and we judge our past selves. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so here we go. Number 1, okay? Number 1 of 2. Got 2 stories here. Now the wind's going to pick up. It's really not bad. I honestly don't know what started my fascination with abandoned property. The first house I ever found intrigued me and prompted me to get out of my vehicle and explore it. The video I captured on that summer day in 2010 was the start to numerous adventures. At first I thought maybe it was the thrill that was driving me to continue my exploration. But as time wore on and I began to do it more and more, I found out that it was something completely different. Here is something that most people would just pass by, never stopping to take a second glance at a forgotten home. I realized that I wanted to preserve these locations, capturing them in time for the world to see. The people who once lived, loved, and laughed in these locations have moved on and left their world behind, but that doesn't mean that these houses hold any less importance. The uncertainty of what prompted these people to leave also leaves a lot to ponder. Certainly each house tells its own story, and it is incredible to try to figure out what that is by the remains that are scattered around. The previous owners never had any idea that their once well-kept and beloved property would fall into ruin so many years later. The houses stand and watch time pass by outside of their broken and damaged frames, sadly unwelcoming to so many. Pulling into an overgrown driveway, seeing that house looming out of the overgrowth, and feeling that rush of adrenaline as the unknown awaits is like nothing else. That is truly what it becomes. Urban and abandoned exploration leaves the unexpected to lurk around every single corner at each moment. A strange sound or a whisper of wind might be enough to spook anyone. The number one thing is to always remain on high alert for potential dangers or those things that just don't feel right. I have thankfully been very lucky, and never have I come across someone that was less than happy with me being on their property or a situation that was compromising. Also, if a feeling of dread surrounds a property or it takes more than a minute to decide if it is vacant, something is probably not right. Trust your intuition. For me, if I have decided to venture into a house and stay too long, your body will tell you to get out. Sometimes that instant when you see a hospital bed in the living room, photos of an elderly couple lying on the counter, or a smoke alarm beeps, it's time to get out of there. Something I always try to find is some identifying article such as a calendar that can tell me when the house was left in its current state. That can be surprising at times. It seems that here in Northwest Ohio there are many ancient ruins, weathered by years of rain, wind, and snow, And then there are those abandoned in the past few years or even months. Those definitely hold a much greater risk factor because you never know when someone might be back around. But for me, are somehow even more intriguing because more personal goods are usually left behind and the question of why becomes even larger. BAC, or Bank of America's field agent documents, are something that I have seen often on my adventures. It is a telltale sign that the housing market is really failing, and a lot of people in this area and across the whole country are hurting. It bothers me so much that there are people out there who show no respect to abandoned properties and instead feel that need to damage, steal, and vandalize everything they can get to. This not only portrays those of us who have good, professional, and caring intentions in a terrible light, it makes owners and authorities crack down even harder, making it impossible or even much more risky for us to explore like we so badly have the desire to. When I'm standing on an abandoned property, hearing the silence all around, it makes me realize even how much more things in my life are also always changing. I can't control what could possibly happen along the way, but I know nothing will last forever, and I have to remain strong in that light. And this is one of the most important visions or realizations I take away from abandoned properties. Time is so brief and is left as an imprint on forgotten homes. Everything that changed or that no longer is. Those who think abandoned house exploration is foolish, a waste of time, or don't pay attention, don't realize how much, at least to me, it talks of life, experiences, and hopes and dreams that are now past. Allow the houses to speak to you, and you just might understand what they are trying to say to you or what you are trying to figuratively find out for yourself in them. Above all, be safe. You are important on your adventures, and you are wished many more. And that was from me on March 6th, 2012. On this day of recording, it's March 23rd, 2019. And story number 2. Sometimes I can't help but wonder if those houses that are left abandoned and alone should just be left that way, in respect of the family who once lived there would have wished. It doesn't take an easy occurrence for someone to just up and leave their home behind. Always, there is some kind of bigger reason. Is it my affair? I don't know. I use county plat maps occasionally to dig a little deeper, which for some reason doesn't feel right to me. Surely these are public records for anyone to see, and it's very interesting when facts become clear about why the home is in the condition now. Sheriff auction, a deed affidavit, a death affidavit, foreclosure, or sometimes just being a leased property that hasn't been touched in a long time. But am I still in respect of the previous family by digging into their privacy like that? I think these houses that have been abandoned more recently are that much more intriguing because it speaks of how easily an event can happen. 2 or 3 years pass by and then there I am in that moment in time in the same place that someone else once was. The houses from many years past, sitting hidden and draped in years of weather and wear, are very impressive in themselves. Tree branches knocking aimlessly against wood siding that has seen better days, crumbling porches, collapsed roofs, and sagging floorboards. It takes a lot of intuition firstly to determine whether it isn't so dangerous and risky to set foot inside that it would be crazy, or an animal has made its nest inside and an explorer would be up for a startling surprise that just might make him fall through a floor. Second floors on houses not only hold a particularly ominous but also intriguing feeling because you can't tell what is waiting for you above. There is also a much greater risk factor of floorboards that are so far gone that they can't take any more weight. Tread carefully wherever you are, in or outside, and you'll likely be just fine. The most important thing if an explorer takes a friend or friend along on an adventure is for them to be on the same page. Certainly, there is always a chance in any location to be stopped by a homeowner, the police, or just a nosy neighbor, and you have to have the same thing to say as to why you were visiting the location. It's not common that people would be seen around an abandoned property, so when one is seen, it might be likely someone will take notice or might not notice at all. Sometimes a house has sat in such bad shape for so long and the previous residents or farmers who own the land haven't been back, no one could care one way or another of what is happening there. Like I mentioned before, it takes a certain person to see an abandoned house for more than an eyesore. Personally, I still think that the best locations are those on lightly trafficked roads with few, if any, homes or cars on them. It is never easy when houses are close together and the neighbors might just start talking and asking questions, which I'll gladly answer, but would rather avoid. Once again, too many people along who might not care about the property, what it holds, and feel no shame in breaking things, graffiti, or being reckless, just don't belong there exploring with you. I've been out several times in the past with a few of my friends and didn't like the feeling of not always being sure what they were going to do. I honestly just like being out there by myself to capture every feeling in the way it should be. Several years ago, before I ever got into filming and photographing these houses, a friend and I ventured into an abandoned house next to him that to this day I still regret not taking pictures of. This house has since been renovated, but in the state it was when we went through it, I believe it was still the worst condition, but best I have ever seen at the same time. The place was absolutely destroyed. Whole walls kicked out, broken windows, busted TVs, an incredibly rancid refrigerator full of food, a nasty hot tub on the deck, Playboy magazines everywhere, and an overall feeling of total ruin and abandonment. The previous owners were not people to run into if they had caught us in this house, though. It was definitely an adventure and maybe what I am still trying to find out. There are many mysteries out there waiting to be uncovered, and I think that might be exactly what I'm trying to do. So, from 7 years ago to now, there you go. Wow, crazy to read that again. And thank you so much for coming along and watching on the 100-Day Video Challenge. And I'll catch you tomorrow.